All right. So, like, imagine this, right? You suddenly get this urge to try paddleboarding,
Yeah.
or maybe you need skis just for like a weekend trip.
Yeah.
But then you think about it, buying all that gear,
Hmm.
finding a place to store it.
And the cost.
Yeah, it could be a total buzzkill.
Definitely. It kind of takes all the fun out of
Yeah.
being spontaneous. And honestly,
Yeah.
how many times are you really going to use that, like, top of the line kayak?
Exactly. Seems like a waste on like so many levels.
Oh.
But what if there was a way to experience these activities without, the commitment of ownership?
Oh, I like where this is going.
That's the whole idea behind Decathlon Rent, and it's a really fascinating example of how the subscription economy is shaking things up, even in the world of sporting goods.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's a really interesting case study.
Yeah.
And in this deep dive, we're going to unpack how Decathlon is using rentals and subscriptions to make sports more accessible and sustainable.
Yeah, cool. So first, let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture. Okay. The case study points out that a surprising, actually, 78% of adults now use subscription services.
Wow, 78%.
I know, it's a lot.
That's huge.
So you probably subscribe to multiple services yourself.
Oh, definitely. It's like it's become the norm.
Total.
It really reflects a cultural shift, I think.
For sure, especially among like younger generations. We're seeing this move away from the traditional idea of, owning everything.
Right.
Experiences are valued more, and convenience plays a huge role in that.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, why buy a CD when you can stream any song you want? Why buy a car when ride sharing and subscriptions are an option?
Right. And when you think about the environmental impact of like traditional retail, all that overproduction, waste, carbon emission subscription models start to look pretty appealing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly the point Decathlon is making. They highlight the reality of overconsumption, the depletion of resources, the
Yeah.
mountains of products ending up in landfills. It's a problem they're actively trying to address.
For sure. It seems like they're jumping headfirst into this booming subscription economy, which the case study says is already a $650 billion market.
Yeah, it's massive.
But it seems like they're not just chasing profits here. It seems like they're really trying to be part of a solution.
Yeah, and they're doing that through what they call a circular economy approach. It's not just about reducing their environmental footprint. It's about like rethinking their whole business model.
Okay, so let's break down what that means in practice. Decathlon has set some pretty ambitious targets, like reducing greenhouse gas emissions,
Mm.
using 100% renewable energy, and designing products that are, built to last and be easily repaired.
Yeah, they even have a goal for all their product to be designed with a reduced ecological impact by 2026.
Wow.
That's huge for a global company.
Yeah, it's a massive undertaking. There's this quote from Charles K. Mianica, their design leader. It really stuck with me. He said, "Eco-design isn't enough. We must strive for eco-innovation, which means reinventing the way we do business."
Yeah, it's a bold statement,
Yeah.
but it shows a real commitment to like changing the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how are they actually putting this eco-innovation into practice? What
It-
specific steps are they taking?
They've implemented like a really well thought out 4-step process to optimize the entire life cycle of their products. It starts with assessing the end of life impact of a product,
No.
like what happens to it when it's no longer usable.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. Then they analyze its environmental impact throughout its whole life cycle, from like raw material extraction to manufacturing and transportation.
Okay, yeah. So that gives them a holistic view of where the biggest opportunities for improvement are.
Exactly, yeah. And then they use that data to implement concrete changes.
Yeah.
They've established these like strict green design rules for their products, focusing on things like material sourcing, durability, repairability. They've also partnered with organizations like the Better Cotton Initiative to promote sustainable cotton production. And they've even eliminated shoe boxes in their U.S. stores to reduce waste.
Oh, I didn't realize they were doing that.
Yeah,
That's interesting to see how those like seemingly small changes can add up to a bigger impact.
totally, yeah. And all of this feeds into their like overarching goal of creating a more circular economy
Mhm.
where products are designed to be reused, repaired, and recycled rather than, ending up in landfills.
Yeah, for sure. All this talk about sustainability is great, but let's get to the heart of it. How does Decathlon's rental program actually work?
Okay, so let's start with this scenario that's probably familiar to a lot of listeners. You have kids, they're growing like weeds, and they seem to need a new bike every other year.
Ugh, don't even get me started on how quickly my kids outgrow their clothes. It's like this constant cycle of buying and purging.
Right. So that's where Decathlon's Kids Boot Twin Bike program comes in. For a surprisingly low monthly fee, we're talking like 3 to 8 euros.
Wow.
Your child can have a bike that's always the right size, and when they outgrow it, you just swap it out for a larger one.
Okay, that's pretty genius. It solves a real problem for parents. And it's way more sustainable than, constantly buying new bikes. What about for adults, though? What kind of rental options do they offer?
Their adult equipment rental program is pretty extensive. You can rent everything from e-bikes and skis to kayaks and tennis rackets.
Wow, that's quite a range. But does that low price point actually make the program, like, sustainable for Decathlon in the long run?
That's a great question, and it's one that they've clearly considered. They've structured their program to address this in a few key ways. First, they focused on making their products incredibly durable and easy to repair. This reduces maintenance costs and extends the lifespan of the equipment.
So it's not just about renting, like, cheap stuff that falls apart quickly.
Right.
It's about renting quality products that can be used for years.
Exactly. They're also strategically managing their inventory to ensure high utilization rates. They're using data analytics to understand demand patterns
Yeah.
and allocate equipment efficiently across different locations.
So they're not just sitting on a bunch of unused gear gathering dust in a warehouse. They're actively optimizing the use of their resources.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, they've built their rental program around a philosophy of sport as a service. It's not just about providing access to equipment. It's about creating a seamless and enjoyable experience for the customer.
Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more about this sport as a service idea.
So think about it this way. When you rent equipment from Decathlon, you're not just getting a bike or a kayak. You're getting a whole package of benefits.
Okay?
They include maintenance, insurance, even theft coverage in their subscriptions.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It takes away the worry and hassle that often comes with, owning and maintaining your own gear.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like they've thought of everything to make renting a no-brainer.
Yeah. And what about the flexibility of their rent program? You mentioned you can try equipment before you commit to a longer rental, right?
Yeah. Yes. You can try before you subscribe, switch equipment if your needs change, and there's even a minimum rental period of just 3 months. It's designed to be adaptable to your lifestyle.
All this flexibility and convenience, it's clear that there's a lot more going on here than just like throwing up a website and renting out some gear.
You're right. There's some serious technology working behind the scenes to make all this possible. This is where we start to see the power of Decathlon's digital transformation.
Okay, let's dive into the tech side of things.
Yeah.
The case study mentioned they've invested heavily in building a cloud-based platform to manage everything. What exactly does that entail?
They have a dedicated team of over 450 engineers and digital experts who've developed this sophisticated subscription management platform. This platform handles everything from inventory tracking and order fulfillment to like automated billing and customer relationship management.
Wow, that's a pretty massive undertaking. And it sounds like they're using this technology in some really innovative ways.
They are. One of the most interesting aspects is their use of AI-powered data analytics.
That's a buzzword we hear a lot these days. How's it actually being applied here?
They're using AI to analyze vast amounts of data about customer behavior, purchase history, even weather patterns to personalize the rental experience.
Oh, wow.
For example, imagine the platform suggesting a mountain bike based on your skill level and then like recommending nearby trails.
That's impressive. It's like having a personal sports concierge in your pocket.
It is. It's all about like anticipating your needs and taking the guesswork out of trying new sports. And they're also using this data to optimize their inventory management, predict demand fluctuations, and even shape future product development.
So they're not just reacting to trends. They're using data to stay ahead of the curve and create a more responsive and sustainable business model.
Exactly. And to make sure that all this digital wizardry doesn't come at the expense of their sustainability goals, they have a dedicated green IT team focused on minimizing the environmental impact of their technology infrastructure.
That's good to know. It would be ironic if their push for sustainability in one area was like negated by a huge energy footprint in another.
Totally. They're committed to aligning their technological advancements with their environmental values.
So they've got the vision, the models, the technology. But what about the actual customer experience? Is it really as smooth and seamless as they make it sound?
That's what we'll explore next. From their online platform to their in-store services, Decathlon has put a lot of thought into making renting as easy and enjoyable as possible. Yeah, so it's not just about the back-end technology.
Right.
Decathlon's also put a lot of thought to, how the customer actually interacts with the rental program,
Yeah,
both online and in their stores.
makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, clunky website or like a confusing rental process could easily turn people off.
totally.
So what have they done to make the experience like user friendly?
Well, their online rental process is designed to be super intuitive and straightforward.
Okay.
The case study highlights how they've improved website navigation, streamlined the booking process,
Yeah.
and they've seen increased conversion rates as a result.
So they're actually like tracking these metrics and using data to continuously improve that online experience.
Oh, absolutely. They're taking a really data-driven approach to understanding what works and what doesn't,
Yeah.
but they're not stopping at just online convenience.
Okay.
They also offer really comprehensive support services
Yeah.
to ensure a positive experience throughout the whole rental journey.
What kind of support services are we talking about here?
Think technical support, spare parts, workshop services if you need help with repairs or maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
They even offer emergency assistance if something goes wrong while you're, out using their equipment.
That's a level of service you don't typically associate with, like rentals.
Right.
It seems like they're really trying to alleviate any concerns people might have about renting instead of buying.
Exactly, yeah. Trying to remove those barriers and make renting as worry-free as possible. And it's not just about providing practical support.
Right.
They're also fostering a sense of community among their subscribers.
Oh, I'm really intrigued by this community building aspect.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
They've implemented some really innovative initiatives like their Rentals for Rubbish program.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Basically, subscribers get discounts on their rentals for participating in local cleanup events.
Oh, cool.
It's a brilliant way to connect sustainability with customer engagement.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
It incentivizes people to do something positive for the environment, strengthens the community, and it reinforces Decathlon's commitment to sustainability.
Totally. It's a great example of how they're going beyond just transactional interactions
Right.
and creating a more meaningful relationship with their customers.
Yeah. So we've talked about the vision, the models, the tech, the customer experience, but are they actually walking the walk when it comes to sustainability? Like, how are they measuring their environmental impact?
That's the crucial question, right? And they're very transparent about their progress.
Right.
They've set some ambitious targets, and they're publicly tracking their performance against those targets.
Yeah.
They're measuring everything from their carbon footprint to their waste reduction efforts.
That level of transparency is really important. It builds trust and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key results they've achieved so far?
Well, they've already achieved a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow.
And they're currently using 75% renewable energy across their operations.
Those are pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're well on their way to achieving their goal of carbon neutrality by 2040.
They're making significant strides. They're also really focusing on extending the life cycle of their products through repairability and reuse,
Yeah.
which has a huge impact on reducing waste.
Yeah, the case study mentioned that repair costs are significantly lower than buying new.
Yeah, they found that repairs are typically 30% cheaper than buying a brand new product.
That's a pretty compelling argument for repairability, both from an environmental and a financial standpoint.
Absolutely. And it all feeds into their larger vision of creating that circular economy for sporting goods.
Right.
They want to keep products in use for as long as possible,
Yeah.
Minimizing waste and maximizing resource efficiency.
It's a really compelling model, but let's be realistic. There must be challenges to implementing such a radical shift in their business model.
Of course. Transforming a retail giant like Decathlon doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And they've been really upfront about the hurdles they faced along the way.
What are some of the biggest challenges they've encountered?
I'd say one of the biggest has been shifting consumer mindsets.
Good.
Getting people to embrace a subscription-based model for sporting goods requires a significant change in how they think about ownership and access.
Yeah, it's a real departure from that traditional buy it and own it mentality.
Yeah. Exactly. And it takes time and education to convince people that renting can be a more convenient, affordable, and sustainable option.
I imagine there have been logistical challenges as well,
Oh, yeah.
like managing the flow of rental equipment,
Mm-hmm.
ensuring it's properly maintained, and handling returns efficiently.
Yeah.
That sounds complex.
It's incredibly complex. They've had to revamp their entire supply chain to accommodate this new model.
Wow.
They've implemented new warehouse management systems,
Mm-hmm.
trained staff on repair and maintenance procedures,
Okay.
and partnered with specialized logistics providers to handle the movement of equipment.
It's a massive undertaking, but they seem to be tackling it head on.
They are, and that really speaks to their commitment to this vision.
Yeah.
They're not letting the challenges deter them.
Good.
In fact, they have ambitious plans to continue expanding their rental program.
That's great to hear. What are some of their future plans?
Well, they're looking at adding new product categories, especially in areas like specialized equipment, fitness trackers, and adaptive gear for people with disabilities.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Those are all areas where renting could be particularly beneficial.
Right. They're also investing heavily in innovation, exploring things like smart equipment integration
Mm-hmm.
and enhanced digital experiences. Imagine having like connected fitness devices
Okay.
that track your performance while you're using their rental equipment
Yeah.
and provide personalized coaching tips.
That's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right.
And it aligns with that sport as a service concept we talked about earlier.
Exactly. They're not just renting out equipment.
Yeah.
They're creating this whole like holistic ecosystem that supports and enhances the customer's sporting experience.
It's an exciting vision, and it's inspiring to see a company like Decathlon leading the charge toward a more circular economy. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Yeah.
And that's what makes their story so compelling.
I agree. They're proving that a circular economy approach can be commercially viable, environmentally responsible, and beneficial for consumers.
For sure.
And it's not just about Decathlon.
Right.
Their journey raises some important questions about the future of consumption in general.
It really makes you wonder, though, could this model be applied to, like, other industries as well?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, Decathlon's success with rentals,
Right.
it highlights a broader shift
Yeah.
happening across a lot of sectors. This move toward product as a service.
You see it everywhere now. It's not about owning a product anymore. It's
Right.
about, like, having access to it when you need it without the burdens of ownership.
Totally. Like, think about streaming services for music and movies.
Oh,
You don't need to own this huge collection of CDs or DVDs anymore. You
Right.
just subscribe to a service and you get access to a vast library of content.
yeah. And it's becoming more common with things like cars and clothing, too. Subscription services are popping up everywhere,
Yeah.
offering, like, convenience and flexibility.
Exactly. And Decathlon's experience, it suggests that this model could be successfully applied to a wide range of products,
Yeah.
from electronics and appliances to furniture and even like tools.
Imagine a world where instead of buying a new washing machine
Right.
or, like, a power drill,
Yeah.
you could just subscribe to a service that provides you with access to those items when you need them.
It's a really fascinating possibility.
Yeah.
And it could have like a profound impact on how we consume goods and manage resources in the future.
Totally. What would it take for this to become, like, more widespread, though?
Yeah.
What are the key challenges companies would need to overcome to make this shift?
Well, for one, I think it requires like a fundamental rethinking of the business model.
Okay.
Companies are so used to selling products and generating one-time revenue.
Yeah.
Moving to a subscription model means shifting to a recurring revenue stream, which can be a big adjustment for companies used to those traditional sales models.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a different way of thinking about, like, profitability and customer relationships.
Exactly. And then there are the logistical challenges, right? You need a robust infrastructure in place
Yeah.
to handle rentals, repairs, and returns efficiently.
Right. Decathlon had to completely revamp their supply chain
Mm-hmm.
and invest heavily in technology to make their rental program work.
Yeah,
So other companies would need to be prepared to do the same.
absolutely. But the potential benefits, I think, are significant,
Yeah.
If we could successfully transition to a product as a service model for like more goods,
Mhm.
it could lead to, a substantial reduction in waste, a decrease in resource consumption,
Yeah.
and even a shift toward more durable and repairable products.
It's about moving away from that throwaway culture we've become so accustomed to
Right.
and embracing a more circular economy where products are designed to be reused, repaired, and ultimately recycled.
And Decathlon is showing that it's possible.
Yeah.
They're demonstrating that a circular economy approach can be, good for business, good for the planet, and good for consumers.
For sure. So what does all this mean for you, the listener? What
Yeah.
can you take away from this deep dive into Decathlon's rental revolution?
I think it's an invitation to start thinking differently about how we consume goods.
Okay.
Next time you're about to buy something,
Yeah.
pause for a moment and consider, is there a rental or subscription option available?
It's a good habit to get into, yeah.
Yeah. And when you are making those purchasing decisions,
Hmm.
think about the product's lifespan, its repairability, and its environmental impact.
Right.
These are important considerations that can have a real impact.
Yeah. And if you're excited about the idea of a more circular economy, consider supporting companies
Yeah.
that are leading the way in this transition.
Absolutely. Vote with your wallet, so to speak.
Yeah, but even like small changes in our individual consumption habits can collectively make a big difference.
For sure, yeah. It's about embracing the idea of access over ownership.
Yeah,
We don't always need to own everything to enjoy it.
right.
Sometimes renting or subscribing can be a smarter, more sustainable, and more fulfilling choice.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring Decathlon's rental revolution.
It really has.
They've shown us that a circular economy approach is not only possible,
Yeah.
but also highly successful.
They've challenged conventional thinking about the relationship between business, sustainability, and consumerism.
Hmm.
And they've given us a glimpse into a future where, access and experience might trump ownership.
So the next time you need a new piece of sporting equipment,
Yeah.
think about Decathlon Rent.
Hmm.
You might just find that renting is the perfect way to explore new sport, save some money,
Yeah.
and make
Yep.
a positive impact on the planet.
And who knows, maybe their story will inspire you to seek out similar options in other areas of your life,
Yeah.
Contributing to a more sustainable and equitable world for all of us.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.